I know one designer who has worked on some of the biggest name RPGs over the last decade. You get him talking about damage formulas or character progression or a good RPG flow, and his opinions are downright genius. He is a master of his craft. But once you get him talking in general terms, there's an interesting little pattern. Every well designed game is on his list of favorites. Every game he dislikes is purely bad design and the fault of a clueless public buying into marketing hype. He has godlike tastes. It's remarkable, really. Almost unbelievable. Review scores, thumbs up, our very way of talking about games revolves around this linear scale of bad to good. But this view really leaves out one of the core factors on how enjoyable a game is. That's right, I'm talking about you, the player. You are the single biggest deciding factor in whether a game will be good or bad, fun or dreadful. You're kind of like a prism that the game experience shines through. You shape and break up that experience based on your own personal tastes. The things that you like are amplified and shine out, while the things that you don't like become dulled or downright revolting. Two different people with the exact same game will have entirely different experiences. For the purpose of this video, we're just going to call this general concept of how the player influences the experience a player's needs. This video is not going to go deep in depth. We'll talk a lot about this in the future, but for right now, we just want to plant the seed. We want to let this concept grow in the back of your mind as you play games, and as you see the connections, it'll change the way you see everything. As a designer, we have to pick a target audience and aim for this specific subset of players. We're building a game based on an imaginary player filter that allows us to focus our game on traits that are common within an existing community. Really, the best way to learn how to read other players is to deeply understand the one that you have complete access to, yourself. The vast majority of human beings stop digging deeper once they have their surface level understanding of themselves. If you ever want to be able to read another person, you need to be able to see your own biases at an extremely high level of detail. Over the years, I've learned that I love high mobility shooters like Vanquished. I really hate cover systems and the static positioning that comes with it. And I hate it even more when enemies use cover because it turns his big budget shooter into whack-a-mole. Now, on a larger scale, the game industry does have a number of player models that represent the player needs. These models try to divide all players into specific subsets with traits that they tend to seek out in games. This might be socializing, exploration, challenge, but these models were generally built by studying players specifically in MMOs. These are all about targeting every single player type for the rest of their lives. If you're a professional developer working in live service games, this is extremely helpful. But the majority of indies don't need to sell 1 million copies to break even. Instead, it's pretty effective to look at the target audience for specific games that you're trying to mimic. This will allow you to look at the existing player base, watch their streamers, read their forums, and see how the most vocal supporters feel. But there is an alternative. A lot of studios hire their own player base. If you are the target audience, you just filter the game through your own experiences. You don't need the additional skill of researching and reading other players because you just make what you think is fun. The key takeaway with this video isn't that you're wrong in what you like or dislike, but to understand that there are a lot of sliders in the human brain. The more you learn about these and the deeper you go, the less words like good and bad will even mean to you. Design choices aren't good or bad. They are simply an effect. The ultimate value is determined by the player that picks up your game.